Proven testing, be a blessing. Earn blessing, always learn a lesson. Got a patch, better keep the patch. And the skies.
Alright, so welcome to part 2. Just going to jump straight into it because I know you guys you want to get this done and over with just as much as I do. I want to click the video. As soon as it load up, we Gucci. I got my L popping too. So hold. I got to mute this. Hold. Alright, now we Gucci. So I'm taking off the two 13mm bolts that go on, that's on the subframe side, but that's for the whole sway bar. There's a set on a pair on each side. I just basically said the same thing, don't mind me. And on top of that, I ain't even had my morning L, so definitely don't mind me. Like, you see how I got the rear two subframe bolts off, and you know I'm able to slide out those two 13mm bolts on each side for the sway bar. It's because I got the subframe, you know, dropped down a few inches in the back. Gives me access to the top bolt for the steering rack, and like I said, for my sway bar stuff. Let me go ahead and smoke my smokes and do what I do. I had called out of work today too. I was supposed to go on a day. It was one of those days. I'm beat. Everybody know me and how I work. I'm still taking off the other two 13mm bolts so I could just debrief y'all on other stuff that ain't got nothing to do with anything. But man, I be tired. If I'm tired, I'm tired. Everybody in their grandma know exactly how I work. So when I tell you I'm tired, I don't have to lie to nobody. I don't have to not use no excuse for nothing. I deserve it. So that's that. I called out. Dead list. It is what it is. Next, I don't know what I'm doing. I think, what's the pry bar? What's the pry bar for? Oh! Moving the sway bar out the way. I guess I never got to that 18mm bolt. The long bolt's not the long as hell, but your steering rack has 3 bolts, as I explained. You got 2 on the side that you saw me remove, and then I moved up the sway bar just to get to this one. So now I'm ratcheting it out. Yeah, you can get in there with like a swivel, a 3/8 swivel, whatever how you prefer. But I was able to use my long ratchet wrench to get in there. I like the ratchet wrench because it got like just the angles to give me, and I can sneak in. You see, I was able to get that top bell housing bolt out with the, you know, the 15mm ratchet wrench. It serves its purpose pretty much. And on top of that, it got leverage. The more leverage, the more torque I get. But you don't want too much torque on a ratchet, probably. We'll talk about that at another time. So I'm still backing off the bolt. It might take me a little minute to come out because I'm doing everything by hand rather than power tools. But it's cool though. I get cardio on at the same time. That's the upside of it, not the downside of it. The upside of you ratcheting stuff, you get cardio and you gain some muscle. A lot of people don't see that though, but it is what it is. And it's not for the lazy, for sure. I guess I'm still ratcheting it out, and eventually I ended up using a pry bar and a hammer to tap it out, the little hole that it was stuck in, because, you know, GM bolts don't come straight out sometimes. So let me take my puff. Yep, so here's my pry bar here where I'm tapping it out. As I said, both fell out. There's a front engine mount, and then that front engine mount is the 18mm bolt. You see I got in with my 3/8 swivel and 3-inch extension, and I was able to back that out. Now, I don't think it was working for me by hand. Ooh, that Drosky. I don't think it's working by hand. I mean, not by power. Or did it work by power? It probably didn't. I don't know. Oh, it did come out. Oh, I thought I was struggling because I had a moment one time I was struggling to get off the mount. So the front mount, engine mount, this is the center bolt. That's the one I took out. Sorry for the confusion. You see how I'm able to rock the engine back and forth. You want to be able to do that. So next I'm taking off the subframe. The subframe is ready to come out, and that's our adapter, the thing that we use to help remove subframes. Usually I use like a long plank of wood and balance it out that way, but this one, the way it's designed, it's not a problem, and I don't have to jack as high as, like, you know, a wood plank. So you got the space to just, if you never saw this before, your shop probably don't got this. I've been in a whole lot of shops, and a lot of shops don't got this, so it was lucky, you know, this shop has it, and this makes my day a whole lot easier. The whole entire subframe itself is not heavy. You'll see me like carry that out like a boss. always wanted to say that, like a boss. I carry that joint out like a boss. Hold on, take my puff. Hold up. Yeah, I got my tools and shit laid out. I just got like, my order is all weird, but the funny thing is, I know where everything go. Like, my photographic memory is the shit. Y'all probably like, you got bolts and shit on the floor. Past tense, I had. It's not there no more. I put them up and I organize them, but you see how I lay out my shit. So how I know where to go to, you know, I go back for it. So there are, in 4 points of the car, there are 4 subframe bolts itself, but then each subframe bolt comes with a pair of 15 millimeter bolts for each bracket that keeps the, you know, everything stayed in place. Back everything that I just listed off, and, you know, come straight out. Bam. I already got the front out. I mean the rear subframe out. Bolts, I mean. So like I said, I'm doing the front now. Be careful when you're backing out these bolts too, because water like to sit in those bolts and they'll like literally spit right in your face, and you don't want no rusty water all up on your face, or water with bushing material all black and all on you and everything. Looks like I'm pretty much ready to come down. I'm lowering the trans jack, and sometimes when you know lowering your subframe, it's because of how it sits in there. You might gotta like wiggle it out, but before you do that, just reassure that you disconnected you know, what you supposed to have disconnected, or whatever it is we had talked about. I don't know what year and model you're working on, but you're working on the Acadia, I assume, because you are watching this video. Or you're using this for demonstration, or just so you can see how you could, man, can I wing this job on my own? Let me watch this video. I don't know your situation, but for me, this is, look at the way it's coming out. Now, you see how the sway bar is still inside? Yeah, make sure you can put that back onto the strut, put a nut back on it, but you're gonna have to, it's better just to leave it where it's at, because you're gonna literally, you need it to like maneuver, like you needed to be able to move it out the way in case you need to get the subframe back in and line a rack back up. You don't want it in your way. But you see how I lift up the subframe? Bam. It's not heavy at all. If you're not strong, then common sense, just go ahead and ask somebody else. Right now I'm taking off the upstream, the O2 sensor. I don't know if it's bank 1 or bank 2, but it's definitely a sensor 1. So I'm taking off the O2 sensor connector for the front cat and leaving the O2 sensor on the cat itself. Now on the cat there are 4 15 millimeter bolts. I guess for me, the nut and the stud came out at the same time, and then the rest was just 3 nuts, and that just came off. I believe there was 3 nuts. It came off without a problem, but they all 15 millimeter. So get in there. I was able to sneak in there with a air ratchet, and like maybe like an extension, but you probably don't need extension. I don't know the size of, you know, what you're using, but whatever. I guess how am I still fiddling with this O2 sensor connector? Sometimes they make it where they put safety tabs on there and they make it hard for it to come off. So I guess I'm ready to remove the cat. Now, like, I apologize for my angles once again, but this is a point of view type job, so you really just gonna have to you might have to slow this video down. YouTube got a playback speed button, sorry, and you can be able to adjust the speed to half the speed or whatever. I don't know, just if it's too fast. I don't see how this video is too fast for you, or if I move too fast, whatever. You can always go back and just review the video thoroughly. Just might have to like really like look at what I'm looking at to know what the hell I'm looking at. So that's that nut and that stud I was talking about. Let me smoke my L because it's burning. But y'all just go ahead and pay attention to what I'm doing. So I'm removing the front cat. Those when I'm paying attention, when they're supposed to pay attention in Leek's class. You feel me? So hold on. This is more like class too. Hold on. I think this could turn into like a class, like real shit. Like imagine like in schools, like automotive tech schools, and they show people how the process of transmission coming out. They can play one of my videos. I guess now they can play it because I don't curse as much. I might say shit. To me, that's not really a cuss word like that. I ain't say no F-bomb. I ain't call nobody no a-hole, nothing like that. Like, if anything, my main concern as far as cussing, I ain't using no F-bombs like that. So, I feel like this could be instructional. So I'm still working it off. You might gotta crank it by hand. I guess I had to crank the air ratchet just a little bit and then hit the trigger, and then it all zapped out. So I got one more 15 millimeter nut, and once that come out, be careful. Your cat literally, and I mean drop out. You don't want it to fall out, because if you fall out, you might mess up the exhaust studs. Then you can't get your nut on. I don't know. Or you could damage the O2 sensor depending on the way it falls. Do not let the front catalytic converter fall on the ground once. You know, you got all the bolts out. If anything, just leave a nut on till you ready to like take it out from the bottom, and then you Gucci. You can reach to the bolts from the bottom for the cat, like coming off of the head. But it's just, if you can see all four of them from top on, you just do all four from the top. So yeah, that's where I was at with things. Let me go ahead and take another puppy for me. My job probably mad at me, but I don't be caring when people. It's not that I don't care. You can't tell me what I do or don't do, because for the most part, the person telling me about myself, I do more work than them. So it always comes to an issue where I got to check them like, yo, my man, don't tell me I don't do X, Y, and Z. I'm a hard ass worker. Everybody and their grandma knew that. So here's the catalytic converter. Properly place it on the ground. Do not damage the O2 sensor. It's very critical. Don't damage the O2 sensors on the downpipe. So next, should have a bunch of space. It should see the starter. And it's like the reason why the cat got to come out, because you can't get to the starter. You can't get to the starter, you can't get to the torque converter bolts. You get what I'm saying now? So that makes sense. There's no other access port to get the torque converter bolts out, unless you want to be some asshole pulling the whole transmission out as is, leaving the torque converter on. We don't do that. That's fuckery. That's retardedness. We for sure. Even though I had a torque converter that the engine locked up, but it wouldn't rotate around. So sometimes every now and then I gotta pull old trans out without the torque converter, and then I gotta sneak the bolts out from the side of the flop. You know, I got it with a wrench. Somehow I get it out always. I don't know how, but it worked. So I took off a shield. I got two 10 millimeter bolts. That shield was for the starter. I guess, you know, protect the cat from cooking the starter up, basically. So next is a transmission bolt, a bell housing bolt at the bottom, right there, just slightly above like the mount, that black mount. You can see where my hand is. If you give it a second and you know, if I can move my head up, you'll see, you know, exactly what I'm talking about. Just play the video back. You'll see. So took that bell housing bolt out, and I like to put my bell housing bolts together, but well, this is a mount bolt that I had on the ground. I'm looking at it to see what's what and find a spot for it, so I put it there. So now I thought I was able to wedge out the starter, I believe, but there is also another bolt on the starter, the 13 millimeter bolt, and you can sneak in there with like a deep socket, or I was able to get in there with like a 3/8 swivel and angle it out, and then it came straight out. Once that came out, I don't know if you can see what I'm doing. So I got the bolt out. It looks like I got the starter bolt out, but overall, yeah, I'm still working it out. So give me a second. Let me take my puff while I'm working out that one more starter bolt. You can't see it, but it's like common sense. You really gotta like look at it. You really gotta like feel for it. And if you've done transmission jobs before, this is for the rip. You can relate. You know exactly what the hell I'm talking about. Everything. Oh, what's that line? All things explained don't need to be explained. It could be self-explanatory. Don't need to be explained. You know what I'm trying to say. I don't know what I'm looking for. I think I'm looking for like another tool setup. Possibly. Obviously, I'm hooking it up on my electric ratchet. And I'm going to ratchet out I believe I broke it free, and then I'm trying to spin it out faster. Because if I could break something free, then I go back and use power tools rather than sitting there for 2 minutes backing it out. You can save 2 minutes by zoop, zoop, zoop. Just, see that sound I just made? Zoop, zoop, zoop. Y'all might laugh and be like, yo, something wrong with the ball. Like, real shit. Like, To be fair, my process be fast just like that the whole time when I be working. Just like that. Let me take another puff. I might be still low on from last night. I don't know. Yesterday was my birthday. Make sure y'all tell me happy belated birthday in my comments. You feel me? Not trying to sound like no brat, but it was my birthday, goddammit. Nigga turned 33 and shit. So another day older on this planet. Happy birthday, all that good shit. I feel older. But I guess I had an early adulthood. I was just telling my brother that we had an early adulthood. I just felt like I feel older than people. I felt older than people that's my age. You feel me? Or people could be older than me and I could be feeling like I'm just as much as experienced than you. You feel me? So I guess I'm still wiggling out the starter. I don't possibly. Oh no. You want to take off the connector? Sorry, I'm talking. There's a connector for the well, now I'm moving out the starter. Once I moved out the starter out the way after I got that last starter bolt out, there is a knock sensor. You want to move that knock sensor, just the connector. I used to, on a body style before, I used to just take 13mm bolt off and just move the whole thing out the way, or you can separate. It's just easier. But this one, I was able just to move the lock-ins, a red locking tab on it, move that down and press it down, and then you get the connector out, and then you glue. Because you won't be able to slide that starter out all the way, is what I'm saying, because that joint is in the way. So now I'm in the back of the engine. I'm working out the there's the, what you call it, the intermediate shaft, the axle for the passenger side. For the bracket itself, there's 3 15mm bolts, and like in a triangular pattern that mounts onto the engine block. So once you take those off, and you assume you already got your axle out of the hub already, because that's what we talked about, we did in part 1, you should be able to just wiggle it out. Just wiggle it, and like it'll just shove it out at the same time while you're wiggling it. It'll come out, the whole intermediate shaft out the transmission. Now I believe you won't lose any fluid. I don't believe I started losing fluid until I started backing out the torque converter. Like the torque converter was definitely I cussed. I didn't even like mean to cuss, but we're gonna edit that part out. The torque converter was definitely like effed up though, for sure. It was stuck. I had to like wedge it out, like, and you'll see probably at the end of the video. And I can't believe I'm 17 minutes in. Like, it's been a minute since I've done videos like this where I'm just on it for a long time, just running my mouth. But content is content, right? I gotta keep the content coming, you feel me? And not all these videos are always gonna be point of view, but point of view just for me gives you just a demonstration of just the process of my job, what I'm doing. And sometimes it's easier to edit, and sometimes it's not. It's just the way I do it. It's like a bracket, but it also bell housing bolts too. 15mm, and mostly all of the bolts on the bell housing are 15mm bolts. Pay attention to your bolt sizes and stuff too, because that do matter. So if you one of those dudes, you just put shit back and you want F shit up, nah, you're not doing that. The bell housing, not the torque converter bolts, are 18mm, and I was able to get in there with 18mm 3/8 swivel. And you see I got my 3/8 gun. And on a crank, I believe the crank bolt was I'm trying to remember. I'm not sure if it was 21. I could be wrong, but it's common sense for you to know the crank bolt size. But I'm using my long ass ratchet, 1/2-inch ratchet, and rotate the crank around. Now I believe there was 4 torque converter bolts. Got it before, and it wasn't 3. I don't think it was 3. The truck I just did yesterday, I did a 16 Silverado. I put a transmission in it. That had 3 torque converter bolts, but this one got 4, and it's 18mm, and they're not in that tight. I mean, you could possibly get it in by hand, but it's just a pain in the ass. So I like to zap them out with a gun. Remember I said when I zap it out of the gun, be like, zoop, zoop, zoop. It literally was just, but it'd be taking niggas like 15, 20 minutes to take out torque converter bolts. It takes me like 5 minutes or less for most cases. I'm just saying. I'm gonna take my puff, hold on, because I got the L just burning. So we should be, I don't know, maybe in the next 15 minutes, 15, 16 minutes, we'll be done. But I appreciate you sitting and watching this long. I should have broken up this video in 3 parts, but I think that's really not necessary. When I'm doing my transmissions, like I said before, I do it in a process and like steps pretty much. So I don't want too many broken down videos when I could just, you're just gonna have to sit in. It's like a class, just literally sit. So I got all my bell housing bolts off. I didn't show y'all that I got it was like 2 more bell housing bolts off that I got at the bottom. But it's common sense when it's time for the transmission to come out, take all your bell housing bolts off. Leave 1 bolt in at least, so that way it don't just fall straight out. But I'm taking off 3 15mm bolts for the upper, like just the transmission mount. Because, you know, the whole powertrain is being held in. That's why I was able to drop the subframe without supporting the engine and transmission. But now I'm going to have to put, support the engine. I got a pole jack, adjustable pole jack with a, block of wood in between. And I got it held, holding up the transmission. That part is common sense. You always need your support for your powertrain. But I'm taking off the 3 bolts. Once I take off the 3 bolts, the transmission should have dipped down a few inches, and you want it to dip down enough that way you can get the bell housing out through the passengers, through the driver's side well. At least if you needed to. I'm just saying. That's how far you need to dip down. Some people be struggling trying to get the transmission. I was like, yo, it's not coming out. It's not coming out. You gotta dip the engine down to get it out. Don't dip it down too much and mess up the engine mount, the upper one. So what am I doing? I guess I'm gonna hook up the trans jack. We got one that run off air. It's hydraulic, but it run off air pressure too, joint at the same time. You know what I'm talking about. See how I just came up just like that, and then it's like a 2-stage joint. It's got another stage that's I gotta hand pump it, and you see how I got the block of wood and the pole jack just holding up the engine. Now you could use an engine support bar. If I don't have to, if the engine and the transmission sits in the car, then I don't use an engine support bar. Now, if the engine, you can know. It's times that I did. Now, if the engine and trans sits on the subframe itself, then I use the engine support bar. It's just kind of it's common sense. But so I'm working off 1 more bolt. Remember I said leave a bolt on? I think I left 2 bolts on. But do not back out all of the transmission bolts out before you take off the transmission mount. I like to do that just so that way when it's time to come out, I just gotta take 1 off and the transmission it'll separate. Now, if you have separation problems, now you see how the transmission is starting to separate? It looks like it's starting to separate to me. It could be just my lighting probably. I don't know. It looks like it's starting to separate to me. But this vehicle is fairly new. If you got problems where it's separating, then, it comes down to technique most of the time. Wedging it out. I said 15 minutes. I guess I meant to say less than 10 minutes then probably. I don't know. We should be done in the next maybe 3 minutes. Let me stop smoking. I'm wedging it out. Now, I got a problem with it coming out. Yours should have already came out cool, but the reason why the transmission was coming out, and if you wasn't paying attention, because it needed a torque converter. So the torque converter is, when torque converters get all busted, they tend to get stuck in the hub, not the hub, but I'm sorry, wrong choice of words. And I'm partially stoned too in between smoking. They get stuck in the engine side, for manual transmissions, where the pilot bearing will go on that side, it gets stuck. It could get jammed too on the trans. Or what I'm saying is, it could get jammed on the engine side, or it could get jammed in on the transmission side. So for me, I guess it wasn't jammed in on the engine side. Maybe I thought it was. It was jammed in on the transmission side. So I had to wedge it out. It was retarded. But you keep wedging it out properly, it'll come out. So eventually, I was able to get it out, and I probably didn't show it. So now I'm ready to lower the transmission. Where am I? I think I'm in. I'm in the front of the engine. So I'm in the back of the transmission. And sorry for the light. So once you get clear enough for where it's that like that little shaft on a torque converter, you want to make sure that's not like hitting anything. Once that's clear and you got all the connectors and everything out the way, you want to be able to just, you got plenty of room to just, it needs to drop straight down. You should be able to like wiggle it out or force it out. If you got to wiggle it out or force out the transmission, then it's really not like a good thing. Either you ain't take what you're supposed to take off, or you ain't doing the job right. But for me, it's an up and down. I go up and down, and then you got your pivots on the transjack where you can adjust it from left, like on your axis, y-axis, your x-axis. You know what I'm saying? So you get all types of like different angles. So all in all, you should be able to go up and down. I left the transmission as a front transmission mount. I left that on. You don't need to remove that. I didn't need to remove it. I wasn't replacing the transmission. I was only doing a torque converter. But if you're doing the transmission, then this type of video only helps you out because you need to know what the hell got to come out. And I know a video like this joint gonna pop because I pretty much set the trend, like the bar for this. Ain't nobody got no damn video like content on this new body style on the Acadia. I'd be the first one. But this wraps it up. So I'm Leekautorepair. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure y'all subscribe. Just showed y'all how I remove I'm talking about torque converter. Show y'all how I remove the transmission out of a 2017, the newest body style GMC Acadia. Hopefully it falls for the Enclave, Buick Enclave, and the Chevy Traverse. But all in all, it's General Motors products is the same. So I